organizer, she is always creating campaigns that build power, recognition, and consolidate resources. She founded Revolutionary Solutions in 2011, providing technical assistance for community building work, and RBG Farm and Retreat LLC in 27 to create farming experience in urban backyards. In 2020, Mukaji founded the Black Land Ownership Council, Block. I just think that is just so interesting. I just want to pause here for a minute because Mukaji started an organization called the Block, but it's the Black Land Ownership Council. And I started an organization called Block, the Black Local Organizing Committee. It's just so strange. It's all God. A nonprofit which empowers black farmers as business entities as well as landowners. Mukaji is a Frontline Solutions Elevate Initiative, a fellow and accelerator grant recipient from Share Our Strength, and the 2023 Echoing Green Global Fellowship finalist. So you've been very busy.
I have.
That sounds great. I really want you to talk about your farming because I've known you as an organizer, right, and a revolutionary. But tell us, how did you get into this urban farmer and the things that you have been able to do and the things that you would like to do?
Yeah, I mean,
Get close to the mic.
Oh, and thank you so much. And I'm going to be awkward. That's just me, so just bear with me. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's good to be around you again. It's such wonderful energy. You know, God is so good. So, and right on time. I think the timing is really beautiful. Yeah. So your question was, how did I get into farming? Yeah. And so we were organizing. I was organizing with Action for Regional Equity and as an organizer around development, the Boston Jobs Coalition, all that good stuff. And then I went and became like a community, I guess, director / organizer for Unite Here, the hotel union. And it just was not a good experience.
Local 26, correct?
Yeah. And
how long were you there?
I was there for maybe less than a year. I mean, I definitely have no problem leaving a space that I don't feel comfortable in. I never have. You know, if I feel like I don't belong, I just keep it moving, you know, try to follow the spirit. But but what I learned during that period is that development is really interesting, right? And so Boston is a city of development. Like it just everything is about land and purchasing land and leasing land and land being up for grabs and this, that, and the third. And so I started to focus on land, right? I started to be like, okay, like what, you know, where can I fit in with land? And I realized like with food and farming. So when I was in Philadelphia, I graduated from Temple University 2007, and I was there for maybe 7 or 8 years. And in the transition from Philadelphia to Boston, I helped found something called the North Philly Peace Park, which was, we took over like it was 6, 7, 8 blocks in North Philadelphia that had been abandoned for like 20, 30 years. And we joined and partnered with Occupy
Philly.
Occupy Philly, and we started just taking over meetings and stuff. And there's a group called Occupy Vacant Spaces, and so what they did is they would go and turn vacant spaces into you know, green spaces, community gardens, things like that. And but the problem is that they would stay, right? So it'd be like these white liberal kids that would come in and then stay in the hood. And so one of the things that we decided to do was we decided to bring Occupy the Hood in from New York. Shout out to Malik Rasan and Abiodun Henderson. And we basically were like, hey, you know, these white kids, they come in, and it's good what they do, but we want them to leave right afterwards, you know. And so I did something called From Occupation to Liberation, which was an event between like the OG revolutionaries and like the new Occupy white kids. And we had this like big circle where all the OGs like sat around, and Mike Accord, the people's lawyer in Philly, some people know him, some people don't. He was a mediator, and we basically had this conversation about like what you're doing with Occupy is not new. The community has been doing this for a very long time. We've been taking over spaces and transforming them. And what we need you to do is we need you guys to help us take over space, but then we need you to leave. And, just having a real conversation about that. And that always stuck with me. And then when I decided to leave Unite Here, it was interesting because like Prince died. It was like right around that time. And I was just like, what is going on with the world? And it was just right around that time, and I was just going through a lot, right? And it was just difficult, the pressure, and there's a lot of, it's labor, right? And so there's a lot of issues. A lot of stuff is based on the overuse of racial identity and all this stuff in order to categorize people. And then, anti-Blackness is so prevalent in Boston that it's just a combination of things. I was not dealing with it well, and I decided to quit. And I entered the Urban Farming Institute in 2016. Bobby and Nataka were the trainers at the time, and I just was like, I'm gonna farm. Like, I think learning how to use land in the right way is the way that I'm gonna like move right now, because everything is about land. Everything's leading back to land. The entire world is fighting over land. They're fighting over resources that are in the soil. And so I wanted to reconnect to that, because I was tired of being categorized, whether it was like as a woman, as a Black woman. I'm Congolese, so it was like as an immigrant and all these things. And I wanted to like, I'm a child of God. I'm a human being, and we all are. And I wanted to like get back to that and just remind people like all the things that connect us ultimately is like we come, is the earth, right?
Right. Because the food is what keeps us, and we know that the food that we get in this community is horrible.
Absolutely.
And so the fact that you have this organization and you are literally teaching people how to like farm, right? Like on their own land. You're like, you can help them like build beds. And so tell us a little bit about that, because I want to talk to you about my youth program, and maybe we can, get some of our youth involved, so.
Absolutely. So I graduated from Urban Farming Institute in 2016. Within a year, I just was like trying to build garden beds in people's backyards. I call it RPG Farm and Retreat, because I believe in creating experiences where you can like have a moment right outside of what you're going through, and just like with your family or with, friends or whoever you are experiencing right now, you can have a little retreat. And started building garden beds for a couple years. And then
now when you say garden beds, tell us a little bit about what a garden bed is.
A garden bed is a wooden structure. Sometimes it's made out of metal. Sometimes it's made out of plastic, where you put soil in there in your backyard and you grow things in it. And they can be as small as the little planters, right? Or they can be as big as 6 feet. One time I did one that was like 16 by 8 foot, where you can like walk in and have a full kind of growing space. Our most popular ones are like these kindergarten beds, which they're like at the height of children, but you can also like sit and have a bench, and they're about like 3 by 4 feet. They're really wide and deep. And so you can grow greens, just deep rooted plants, and get a higher yield, which just means you get more and more leaves or fruit from it, because the roots can actually go deeper. So one of the things that we do is we really make deep garden beds. A lot of the garden beds are shallow. They're like 6 inches, 8 inches. We do like in feet, right? Because we want it to be able to reach down more.
And so as you're teaching folks these, how do you get the equipment to do it, like the seeding and the soil and all that? Where does that come from?
So over the years, I've gotten donations. I've worked for several farming organizations throughout Massachusetts. And so what I tend to do is resource share. So I think in 2018, maybe 2019, my organization that I worked for at the time was called World Farmers, out in Western Mass. It's not in Grafton. It's in close to Lebanon. And basically, there was like a whole amount of black farmers there. And we got like 4 or 5 pallets of seeds. So almost like, I want to say, it was like 100,000 seeds. It was a lot. And so it was to the point where it was too many. And so I took one of the pallets, which is about 40,000. It was a lot, like 40,000 seeds. I don't, the numbers right now. But yeah, it might have been 40,000. It was a lot of seeds. And I brought it here, and I brought it to the Urban Farming Institute. And so it was a whole pallet that I just donated, right? And the Urban Farming Institute kind of has disseminated it over the years. So I just do things like that. Soil, if I can get access to soil. I've worked with the Boston area gleaners. They have a farm out in Central Mass. And they've given me about, I want to say like 1,000 to 1,500 seedlings. Like, they're amazing, by the way. If you're ever looking for food or for a farming experience, the gleaners are really great. And you can go there and like glean on their farm, and gleaning just means to be able to take and find excess food on their farm. So they grow so much, they grow enough for market, cheap for market. They grow enough to donate to different organizations, and it's fresh food, right, straight out the ground. And so they gave me thousands of seeds. And so I also was part of one of the first organizations that received a grant from the city of Boston for grow.
Don't say the amount.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. For the city of Boston. Thank you, though. Yeah, and we were able to. I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, for Grow Boston. So we were able to receive a whole bunch of funding, and we built 150 to 200 garden beds and gave away seedlings, did workshops, and taught people how to grow food, and installed beds. And it was our first year. It was the biggest grant we had gotten, and that's with RBG Farm and Retreat. And it was a really interesting learning experience because, the timeline was really off, because, the city, like, grants come out the city just depending on what bureaucracy at the time works. So, but it was a really good experience, and it taught me, I think the number one thing that it taught me is that if people have access to it, and I think post-COVID is really important because people really were like, oh my God, the outside, how can we bring the outside home? And so a lot of people started gardening in general. A lot of people started growing food in general. And so being able to kind of develop that experience and develop this program, which is like, oh, okay, like if I can get access to resources, which there's a lot of organizations that are looking for sustainable food resources, not food that just has long shelf lives, but programming where people can sustainably, so it means repeatedly have access to food without it being like a charity thing, right? Without it being like, oh, we constantly have to raise money. And so that's how I kind of came into this space where I want to teach as many people how to grow food, and I also want to teach them how to build a business around food. There is a huge industry when it comes to like local food systems. You can do anything from create specific soil, like black gold soil, which is like the best soil. It's got all the nutrients, all the bugs in it. You could literally raise ladybugs. You could raise worms. You know what I mean? You could be a seed bank. You could just do trees. You could just do fruit. You could just focus on heirloom. You could be a seed saver, right? There's just so many different things. You could build beds. You know what I mean? And we need to build local food systems. I think COVID showed, right? And even now, the way that food is moving through the world, like, is very limited. That's why everything costs so much, right? Because all these pathways of transportation, they're being blocked for whatever reasons. We don't have to get into it, right? But we have to be able to create local food systems because it's better for the body, because it's pollinated by the elements within your local food system. So it's good for your immune system, because basically you get the pollen from the plants that are within your actual environment, and so that reinforces your ability to withstand anything that's within your actual environment. So you want local food, and then you want heirloom food. You don't want genetically modified food.
Right.
You are what you eat. So if you eat a genetically modified plant, then you internally are not eating something that's real. So then the cells that are being built from that are not real, right? And so you want heirloom plants, which just means like the plants where the seed has been unchanged. Have you ever seen an heirloom tomato? They're the big lumpy tomatoes, and they're fleshy, and they actually taste different. Tomatoes are not all supposed to taste the same. There's a reason why. I know so many people that hate tomatoes. They're like, oh, I hate tomatoes. And then I give them an heirloom tomato, and they're like, this isn't a tomato. And it's like, yes, it is. Tomatoes are not all supposed to taste the same. They're not supposed to taste like nothing or like water. They're not supposed to be mushy. There's tomatoes that are fleshy. There's tomatoes that are sweet. You know, there's tomatoes that look like pears. There's all these different things. You know what I mean? So it's just really important, and you need to diversify your diet. Again, it strengthens your body. And I think post-COVID, what I noticed with a lot of farmers, particularly Black farmers throughout the diaspora, farmers of color throughout the diaspora, like we've gone through periods of food deserts, right? Food insecurity and things like that throughout generations and years. And there's seeds that survive, right? Because people, just like, you know, in the Middle Passage too, what happened, right? People were putting seeds in their hair to be able to survive. They're bringing it over. They're braiding seeds in their hair, enslaved, you know? Wow. And so there's seeds that survive, and you eat those seeds and they strengthen you, right? And so there's, I mean, I love talking about callaloo, which is amaranth, because in the Western world, people eat the amaranth grain, but in the Black diaspora, we eat the greens. Callaloo and saltfish, you know what I mean? Like, it's my favorite food for me. And so, and it's a superfood, you know, it's eaten throughout Haiti, like Laotians, or they're called Hmong farmers, who were, you know, they have an interesting kind of position in the Vietnam War, but they're in between Vietnam and Laos. Hmong farmers, they eat amaranth. You know, you have Jamaicans, you got Haitians, you have, you know, we Africans, we eat that. So there's a lot, and Congolese too. There's a lot of different foods throughout the world that are good for you, that are superfoods that we're not getting access to because of anti-Blackness, right? And so for me, the way I look at it is like anti-Blackness is anti-human. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. Any type of discrimination, as human beings, you know what I mean? Yeah. We're denying ourselves whatever the gift that God has for us as humanity through those people, through that person. Because everybody has a special gift. You're supposed to show up in that. Like, God developed something in you to be able to give to the world, you know? And so when we live in a society that discriminates against it, we're denied that. And when it comes to food, it's like we're denied really great, nutritious food, and we need to, like, be able to move past that. And so I began developing with Black farmers this business and this nonprofit, which is to really focus on developing Black diaspora farmers as like in farmers markets, as business entities. I want to be able for them to get contracts. And my end goal is to kind of get to become like global impact leaders, right? Environmentally, the more, every time we plant a seed, we help the ozone layer, right? And the more, because we're in an environmental crisis, whether people believe it or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
you can tell by the weather. I mean, look,
Right.
we're in March and we didn't have no snow, you know, and so it's like the seasons just they just all mushed together. So you know, it's you can tell the stuff is you know,
Yeah.
something ain't right.
Yeah. So we need to plant more plants. We need to plant more things. I'm really, right now I'm deep in like researching hemp, which is like this incredible plant that we used to actually build everything around, right? So industrial hemp is amazing for its fibers. It's amazing for its ability. You can use it in concrete. So there's hempcrete throughout the industry. Like and the carbon imprint that it has is very, very low. And so we're using all these fossil fuels for different things, but we don't need it. We could be using hemp. And so we have to be able to like look at that. And Europe and the rest of the world is kind of like way ahead of us. I don't know if you remember like the Green New Deal and all these new deals that are coming out. Like a lot of it has to do with the fact that our carbon imprint as a country is terrible. And so one of the ways that we can actually help with that is to be able to grow hemp as a industrial product. You can use hemp for anything, right? And so, and I think that we as a people, there's a stigma around hemp, but I'm not talking about THC, I'm talking about hemp, right? And so I think that because now it's like all this stuff is legal, blah, 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 blah. Regardless of whether you want it to be or not, or you think it should be or not, we have to be able to look at the hemp plant as a way to like produce more carbon neutral fibers, carbon neutral products for the environment that we can use, instead of using plastics, instead of using all these things that aren't good for the environment when you produce them.
Well, that's very, very interesting. I don't think I could grow anything, but it's very interesting because I see people that have them plant things like on in apartments, and they basically have the little what do you call them things?
Planters.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it is like plants clean the air, right? They take whatever we breathe out, they take that out of the air. They release oxygen. So like plants are really good for us. So that's why people have them in their apartment. It's good. It's good for the environment. It's good for your environment. There's a reason why there's plants everywhere, right? And so, and going back to whether you can grow, I didn't think I could grow either, right? And the thing about growing is all about patience and consistency. So regardless of whether you want to or not, you show up every 1 to 2 days and you water your plant and you know what I mean? And you maintain it. And that's all. And I always tell people, I try to seed like 30% more, right? Because you might lose 30% of your yield, right? So if you want to grow 70 plants, you plant 100 seeds, and you'll be able to get what you want. Because it's a science, right? And then, you got to worry about nutrients such as like magnesium, nitrogen, all that good stuff. And so that's just with fertilizer. So those are the things that I actually offer. So I offer seeds, soil, like really good soil, garden beds. I offer fertilizer, and I offer gardening classes, workshops.
So your gardening classes. So someone would come to your class, take the class. How long is your class?
It depends. I think like I have shorter classes for those who are more advanced and are looking to like just affirm their growing, because there's a lot of people that know how to grow, they just never took official classes around growing. So just needing to learn about fertilizer and sunlight, you know what I mean, and when to harvest and things like that. And then there's and then I have a longer workshop that's like about 6 weeks, just depending, 6 to 8 weeks, it just depends. It's called From Seed to Harvest, which is just like really teaching people like everything, from the type of light that the plant needs, from type of fertilizer that the plant needs, the different types of plants and things like that, so people can understand. It's not that you don't have a green thumb, it's just that certain type of plants need certain things. Like a fruiting plant needs way more water than a leafy green. A leafy green can grow in the shade and in cooler weather, but a fruit needs warmth, you know what I mean? And a lot of people think that they can't grow, but it's like, no, there's a science to this. And once you get the science behind it, then you're like, oh, okay, so like leafy greens, like spinach and collards and stuff, they can grow through the winter. They'll just pop right up. If you don't pull out the root from the ground, they'll keep going.
Wow.
Just things like that. And so anybody can grow. If I became a farmer, and I'm talking about, I don't like bugs, I didn't like nothing. I remember one day I was coming back from my class, and I was never scared of bugs again, because I took off my boots and like all these bugs came pouring up. And I was like, when I mean like ants and spiders, and I was getting bit up, I felt it, you know what I mean? And but I didn't die. And I said, oh, you know what? I'm good. I'm all right. You know what I mean? I still can't do worms. which is weird, but because worms is like a whole tongue. They like taste you. You know, when worms like flip back and forth, they're like trying to taste your skin, which I think is just horrific. But they're great for aerating soil, which means like making sure that air goes through. So as they move through, they aerate the soil. So it's like everything is very useful. Ladybugs are like warrior bugs. You know, imagine something putting on armor and killing everything. You know what I mean? That's not supposed to be there. So everything belongs there. Like God is designed everything perfect. You just got to know how to be able to like use it.
Right. That sounds very interesting. I'm sure some of my youth would love to participate. We can work something out that we can maybe work with them during the summer. That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like start planting something, and then by the time the summer's over, I don't even know how long the growing period is. I know you're supposed to start in the spring, and then in the fall you
harvest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so what would happen is I would come in, you know, within the next month or two and teach them their background. Luckily, we're in New England, so it's like it's late planting because it's still so cold. So you got to make sure that the frost line is down. The ground isn't cold, or else everything will die. You can't plant new seeds into cold ground.
Okay.
And so, unless it's particular to that region. But so come in, we do our workshop over a certain period of time. We can condense it, and then at the last workshop or even during it, what we could do is we can start planting seeds, and we grow them inside under some lights. And then and some stuff is better like putting directly into the ground, like cucumbers. There's certain things that I don't like to transfer just because they're just much stronger when you put them directly into the ground or directly into soil. But yeah, you can start the seeds inside the classroom. You know, we take care of them every week, every other day. We assign some youth to come in and make sure they water and make sure they're doing everything that it needs to do. And then we launch the outdoor program by building our garden beds, bringing the soil in, doing all of that, and when everything is, and clearing whatever space we're going to use. And then when it's warm enough to plant outside, then we plant it outside, and from there we start taking care of our plants. There's some stuff that you can start harvesting immediately, like arugula and certain different things that grow really fast, and then there's stuff that you're only going to harvest later on, like tomatoes and things like that.
I've seen a couple like garden beds like in the community, and they're like, they have the gardens, they have the planters and things, but then it looks almost like a park, almost like the way it's set up. You have the beds, and then you have places to sit and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, because it's an experience, right? It's why I started RBG Farm and Retreat, because it's like we need the outdoors. We need to be able to breathe. We need I believe in like grounding exercises, right? And so I believe in going out barefoot in the soil and putting your feet in the soil. We've gone through a lot of trauma as a people.
Yes, we have.
And so for me, it's a healing mechanism, right? To go and experience and actually plant something and watch it and nurture it and watch it grow.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've done it with youth before, and like their faces are incredible, right? When it comes to, because they didn't know. A lot of young people, particularly in like urban areas, they don't know where fruit and food comes from and stuff. A lot of them never ate a pure raspberry or a blueberry or a tomato off the vine. Like, I'm big for that. I will not eat lunch. I'll just eat
the fruit.
Yeah, you just eat a cucumber here, a tomato here, whatever here. You cut it up. You can get some bread and you make a sandwich right there. I'm plant-based, so I don't eat any meat or dairy. I don't even eat honey. So that's like really good for you. You know what I mean? And so keeps your body alkaline, which means like you don't carry as many diseases. It keeps your blood high cholesterol, your blood sugar low, all these things, which is really good for you, and which are issues within our community, right? And so to be able to deal with it through food, and then a lot of those body issues then connect to our mental health, and a lot of our trauma connects, right, our mental health. And so if we can create an outdoor experience for us where we can just take a moment and breathe, watch something, nurture, eat good food that doesn't make us tired, Because that's the
Yeah,
thing. We talk
yeah.
about the itis as a people, but you're not actually supposed to get tired after you eat food. The reason why we do it is because our body has to go through so much to digest meat and dairy and all these things. But when you eat plant-based food, which I've cooked for you a few times, it energizes you. You're not exhausted afterwards.
Yeah. You're not ready to go to sleep.
Right,
You
'cause
don't
you're
get
not-
the itis.
The itis, right? 'Cause you're not supposed to.
Right.
It's not part. It's not. And so a lot of that is connected to history. It's connected to our access to the right amount of the right types of food and things like that. That culturally we want to hold on to because it's important, right? Because it was our survival mechanism. But it does get to a point where we gotta figure out how to thrive, right? And there's vegan soul food. I've been traveling down in the South. Man, I've eaten some good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And ain't got one bit of dairy, one bit of nothing in it. So there's alternatives now. And I think us getting to the point where we exercise those alternatives and we're okay with that is we got to do that as a people. We have to heal. We got a lot of trauma that we've gone through, and giving ourselves the opportunity to be hey, human beings, when we go through trauma, it affects our psyche. I don't believe in this black magic, whatever. I don't believe in that, only because I think it puts us in a space where we then have to be exceptional all the time, but we're human beings. You know what I mean? Right. And so I think what it does is it forces us to deny the very human things that happen to us in our psyche. And part of life is to heal. We're going to go through stuff. Life is hard.
It sure is.
And so if we don't heal, we're not going to thrive.
Right.
And we've been surviving for a long time. It's time to thrive. We deserve it. And I think food is such can make such a big impact, right? And then, the other...
Food makes a difference, though.
Yeah.
If you're eating healthy and you're eating good, good food, fresh food and stuff, it does help you, We eat a lot of fast foods and, that stuff is just not good for us, But we on the run, we moving, we're going to grab something quick. But I know, people that, they fix their lunches, they pack their lunches, they prep and all that good stuff,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't wait for my students to meet you because I know they're gonna like you.
I appreciate that. I love the young people.
Yeah, they're this group here is special. This group this is our third cohort. Yes, Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute is having this. We're in the middle, not in the middle, but we're moving up into the middle of our class. And the young folks are really enjoying it. They really are. We went on a demonstration last week at the State House, the Poor People's Campaign, and it was, they were they were excited. One young lady says, "I'm gonna be the president one day." I was like, "You go, girl,"
Right.
And so, as you see them their faces light up, they get involved, we are the people, we have the power. They were like, so it makes you feel good, because they feel good, I had took a couple of them to a press conference the week before, and I was talking to Jenny from Madison Park, and she's like, "Priscilla, what did you all do today?" Deshaun came back, and he was so excited. He said he had never been in the State House, and and these are just everyday things, but sometimes our young folks don't even get an opportunity, to go down there and to see what's really going on, So when April vacation, I think I'm gonna take them to City Hall, let them sit in the hearing,
That's awesome.
But we have to, train them. There's so much that they can learn because they're like sponges, and all the social media and all the other stuff, it's like it just infuses their brain sometimes, but us too, we be on it too, but I'm really excited about this cohort, so we're looking forward to the things that we're doing.
I definitely appreciate
ready.
that. I think you got to expand the world. Young people deserve the world. They deserve to know the world. It's a part of being young, right? Seeing new things and figuring it out. If your world is just limited, then you don't know what your possibilities are.
Exactly.
And that's why their faces light up, because their world expands, right? And they can use their imagination to now believe that they can be president.
That's right.
And we need more of that because,
That's right.
it sounds cliche, but children are literally our future.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
And I think, they're the future adults. They're the future leaders of society. It's always the same thing every generation, which we keep reminding people. And so Mahi is really important. I look forward to, like joining the programming and bringing farming into it because, the farming world is white and male.
Exactly. Because I notice a lot of the farmer markets that we see, like in Razi Square and other different areas, they're all white farmers. You don't see a lot of black farmers. So where are the black farmers? And
and that's why I created Block. I think because black people need to own land, and we need to be able to go for land. And that's another part of Block, which is Grow Boston, which is a great program Mayor Wu's doing. Can't deny it. It's really dope. It's basically giving organizations and communities access to lots that can be turned into green spaces. So there's the Green Spaces Grant, there's the Community Preservation Act, there's Grow Boston RFPs. And so what you can do is you can combine them, and you can go to Grow Boston, you can look it up on the city website. And hopefully what we can do is we can get a lot that the young people could then go
Turn
for.
over.
We can apply for a grant, community preservation grant, and it'll be their farm. And they can have a market right there. And, so the other part is just being able to fundraise and grant write, which is another thing that I do. I had to teach myself how to do that because I was part of all these farming groups that were getting all this money. In the name of BPOC farmers or multiculturalism, and black farmers were always at the bottom. And there was always an excuse. Oh, well, they don't want to show up. Oh, okay, well, now within a month, 30% more showed up. So what's your excuse now? Oh, well, they don't know how to do. Oh, okay, well, within a month, I taught them all how to apply and do what they need to do. They got their serve safe. They got their growers certificate. You know what I mean? And so
every obstacle they had, you had to answer.
Right. And so by the end, it's just, we don't have enough funding. That's because you took all the funding that you wrote in the name of black farmers and BPOC farmers and you put it towards everybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, philanthropy, I've stepped into the philanthropy space because I give out mini grants and things like that for people to start their businesses. I'm not just helping you start your business and then leaving you alone. I help you start your business and I give you the money to file for the state. I give you the money to put into your business account. Right, so that you can have a leg up and you can buy things. It's not a whole bunch, you know what I mean? But you can buy some things to start you off so that you can begin and get you set up. And then I work with TD Bank. I'm developing a program with TD Bank's small business program where you get all that set up and they'll come to you or you go into the bank and they'll have a meeting with you to talk through your options as far as business loans. Right now they have a $25,000 small business loan program where it's just and if your credit isn't right, but you don't have to have this perfect credit, they help you build your credit up. They figure things out.
They work with you.
Yeah. They help you figure out how to manage your finances and how to budget things to get you to the point within 3 to 6 months where you can get access to a $25,000 business loan. And so there's these programs out here, but it takes legitimizing. So you have to have a legitimate business, file with the state. And so one of the things that I believe is in filling those gaps. Instead of telling people you don't have the skills to do it or you don't have the money to do it, why not literally raise money in order to give people the skills to do it and give people the money to file? And so that's how I've been able to kind of get funded, is literally by just saying, hey, part of my funding is going to be directly given to people to start their businesses. I'm not going to just do all this stuff and then let people, which is what's happening in a lot of programs. They get all this supposed support, but then the most important thing, which is the funding to be able to actually legitimize, they don't get. Right. And so I think that's a real gap, and people are falling through that gap because they're going through all this different programming and then and structures and being taught supposed skills, but then they don't have.
They don't get the resources at the end.
And so that's what I do.
That's not, that's messed up,
Yeah.
You go through all that and then you're working with them and you anticipate, and they're anticipating that they're going to get, resources, funding, whatever it all takes. And then they just get kind of pushed on the wayside.
Right. And it's not a lot of money, right? It's not too much to file with the state for foundations, right? It's not too much to give money to legitimize businesses and give money to put into an account. It's not a lot of money for them. It's a lot of money for regular people,
everyday people.
And so for that gap to be there, sometimes you'd be like, man, people are just setting people up to fail. They tell you all these things, and then they don't give you what you actually need in order to be able to do it. And so one of the things that I'm working with is to develop this business model or nonprofit model to just put the hands directly into people and to like mind your business. You know what I mean? It's not a lot of money. There's people that run foundations or that are doing that are running nonprofits, this, that, and the third, that have so much money. It's like the amount that you spend on a purse or on a car or on your vacation, you could help 10 people start their businesses. We have to be able to make those decisions, right? Are we really, really trying to help people, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that getting to that space of having, infusing more integrity into the work that we're doing. I understand people work hard and need to be able to fund their lifestyle, but like, what type of lifestyle? Do you need all that? Do we need all of this? Do we need these high salaries? And do we need all this stuff that actually gets in the way of us concretely helping to lift people up out of poverty and out of situations that they're struggling in financially?
I believe that we can, if we help each other. The thing about it, we can. We got millionaires. That $8 per person. That's a lie. But everybody just. That's just the way the system is. That's just the way the system built. It's like, oh well, black people, you're only worth $8, and white people, you're worth $247,500. Black people own homes, all right. That's black people own businesses, but it's such a struggle. It's hard here in the city, It's almost like Boston always says a crab barrel mentality, because when you see somebody rising up, instead of applauding them, you try to claw them back down. That's the problem that we have in Boston, for real. But I am optimistic. I am just so happy that you're back and that you're doing this, because this is something that will definitely open up our young folks' eyes. Because when you see yourself, you can grow something, and you literally do it with your hands, that makes you feel powerful. That makes you feel empowered. That makes you feel like you can do whatever you want because you're using your hands, Right. And that's one thing that I do notice, especially about immigrants like the Haitians and the Jamaicans and Trinidadians, the people that come. They have trades, they know how to do stuff because they were taught that. Here in Boston, in the States, it's hard. We work free all our life, and so it's like, but we still we have to keep going. We can't give up. We just we have to do what we have to do for us, because time is winding down. We see what's going on in the world, all this war, people, it's just sad.
Yeah, we don't know when we're gonna have the same access to things that we do now, and already just by how much food costs.
Look how it jumped from COVID, all that food. And then remember when food was coming from, and things were coming from, like they had to go through the sea, they were being stuck, you couldn't get access,
Right.
It's just like.
And that's the thing. And I think and being in the West and being African myself, and just, I like to say I'm a child of hip hop, right? So I was definitely raised by American Black culture, and I think that one of the question that we have to ask ourselves as Black people throughout the diaspora is like, do we want the same wealth that the white man is showing and that the white man has, right? Or the elite class, whatever you want to call it, understanding like the way that they got it was by stepping on the necks of the rest of the world.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes we forget that, and we're just like, well, they got it and we deserve it and this, that, and the third. And it's like, but it's called super profits. It's stuff that they got through warmongering, through this, that, and the third, that actually needs to be given back to different countries, different places. You know what I mean? And so having those real conversations, right, about like what it would look like. Because I believe that there is enough resources in the world where everybody can live like millionaires, supposedly, right? Have a house, have a car, be able to travel everywhere, have enough food, have enough clothing, get access to all these different education programs, all this stuff. The problem is we have people that hoard wealth. and they
Yeah.
hoard things, right?
Mhm.
And so, you know, they have 10 homes or $50 million
Mm-hmm.
homes and all this other stuff, and they ain't got no kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nobody to fill these places.
Yeah, you got like a 20-room mansion and 5 bedrooms and
And so we envy
2
that.
dogs.
Like people, right? Like people want that, but it's like, but
Yeah,
why? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Why? And I think like we have to ask ourselves those questions now. We got to really do that because, you know, the world is waking up. I don't believe in woke culture. It's weird. You know what I mean? I've been, Black Studies major. I've been doing this work since I was 18. I think it's really just about having self-awareness and having awareness of what's going on in the world, right? So it's like, well, like the world is kind of like, no. You know what I mean? Like, you're taking all of this. Like, look at how people are looking at different museums now. They're like, hey, bro, like, you looted all this stuff. You need to give it back. And England's like, oh, we'll loan it back to you. What are you talking
How do you
about?
loan back something?
Your own stuff.
Right.
Because it's
just-
worth millions, right? And so that would be transferring wealth back to people, and which is
Exactly.
what elite classes don't want to do, right? And so, and not everybody, right? There's people and there's places that are all for it, right? Again, I think it's, you gotta like come back down to the fact that we're human beings, and there's people that are aware of that and there's people that aren't, right? And everybody's a human being. I believe in the right of everybody on this planet to live, to have dignity, you know what I mean? And to be able to figure out what they can contribute to the world. What's their unique, special thing that they can contribute to the world? And so, but we have to ask ourselves these questions. We can't just blindly move forward and be like, I want this thing, I want these, I want these, I want that, I want that, and not think about the consequences of wanting that, particularly those of us that lived in the Western world, because we're stepping on the necks of other countries. And so, you know, I always think it's interesting, you know what I mean? I think like the migrant crisis in Boston is really interesting, you know what I mean? Because we have countries that create war over there, war in these different countries, you know what I mean? And then people have to come here. Right. But nobody's complaining about the war that we're creating there, and so that people come here. If we actually took a step back and look at international policy and what we're actually doing as a country, then we'd be like, oh, like that's why people are coming here. Like, be mad at the leaders and the ones who are in charge. You know what I mean?
Because
And
they're the one that's forcing it.
right, because people would stay. Most people want to stay and be in their home and be able to like live where they know their culture, their families, their everything. But the problem is that we're causing such dire straits in other countries, again, because we're stripping them of their resources for ourselves, that they got to come here to have the American, you know what I mean, and all this other stuff. And America is a great country. The possibilities here are incredible. But there's different ways that we can do things in order for other countries not to suffer.
Right.
And then
It's like they're taking
people
all
here
the
then
resources
suffer. Right.
from other countries. The people are coming here, and then the people that are here that have been here, we're the ones that's losing out.
exactly.
Yeah,
And so we gotta like understand, you know, the line and how things are how things develop and get to that point, because again, it's like we're pitting people to fight over crumbs. And it's like, yeah, you do deserve better. Like, why are resources being diverted to this, that, and the third? But why is this happening in the first place? You know what I mean? And then you come here and now people are like, aren't getting access. The very people that are here aren't getting access to the things that they need. And then other people aren't getting, and it's all being denied. Now we have a group of people who within 6 to 18 months are going to get thrown out on the street, and they just got here. What does that mean for everybody else? But we got to figure out how the world works first, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 3? 4? So,
wow.
Makaji, tell us how, if someone wants to get involved with your organization or want to work with you or support you in some kind of way, give out your information, your website and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so my website is www.blockleads.com. It's BLOCLEADS.com. And there's a contact page right there where you can contact me. It's also, my email's a little complicated, but you can actually email me at mukaji@blockleads.com too.
Okay.
MUKAJI@blockleads.com. And they can contact me through you. You know, yeah, I mean, I'm around. I never really leave, right? I just
Disappear.
I just be minding my business.
And also this Saturday, we're very excited. Mahi is being hosted at Michael Jacoby Brown's house in Arlington. Sunday. Did I say Saturday?
Yeah.
I meant Sunday. March 10th. And so we're very excited. We have some special guests coming, and so we're, if you want to donate to Mahi, you can check out our website, www.mahei.org. And don't forget about our fundraiser next Sunday at Global Ministries Christian Church. We have doing fundraisers for Boston Praise Radio and TV, Boston Black News, and 102.9 FM. So people, we need support. This is our radio station, and we know we need resources to keep it going. So we're asking you, come out and support us at the fundraiser, or you can, if you want to send a donation, we have Cash App, which is $Boss B. What is it, Pastor? BP Boston Pray BPRT. BPRTV. So $BPRTV, and no amounts